Boy, we've done a lot of series so far this year and over the past year. So now it's time for us to jump into a new series talking about self publishing children's books. But before I start giving a lot of these advanced strategies and some insights for you in self publishing children's books, need to kind of lay a little bit of groundwork. So today is going to be a little bit more remedial. So if you're a little bit more experienced in the business of self-publishing, this might just be a bit of a rehash, but I might encourage you to stick around to the very end because there might be some insights that you never thought of previously. So make sure you stay tuned to today's podcast. What's happening? It's Dale here, and I'm just tickled to death you took a little bit of time out your day to spend a little bit of time with me to talk about my favorite thing in self-publishing books. Now, normally I have like a sponsor spot of some sort, but instead this month I thought I would go and give back to a really, really cool guy. His name's Evan Gao. Evan actually is the founder of Story Origin. So this is a shout out to him. He did not pay for it. I'm just helping him out because he's been tremendous. He's had Story Origin. This is a platform where you find reviewers, you increase your sales, and you build your email list with other authors just like you. So he'd done this, and it had been an open beta for about a few years. I mean, we're talking like this was his only job. He was getting paid nothing to do it. And it was so awesome to see him just embrace the suck. There was sometimes that things didn't cooperate with him like he had wanted it to, but that's why he kept it in open beta for free. Well, all the kinks are kind of worked out, and he's really got an amazing platform I get behind wholeheartedly. Story Origin is launching out of the free open beta. It has been running to help authors build their mailing lists, find reviewers, and run cross promos with other authors. If you upgrade before April 25th, that's 2021, you can get your next 3 months free on the monthly plan. That's $10 per month typically, or get 30% off lifetime. Yeah, lifetime on the yearly plan. So you can actually, instead of paying $100 for the year, you'll only pay $70 for the year. And this 30% off is a lifetime. So as long as you keep your account open and running, you'll still get that discount anytime it renews. Think about this. If you pay $70 per year, that runs about $5.83 on a monthly basis. And this is for as long as you subscribe to Story Origin. Visit storyoriginApp.com for more details. And again, that code is going to actually be launch yearly, in all caps, launch yearly, to get 30% off access of Story Origin. I cannot recommend Story Origin enough, and just really happy to see Story Origin taking some steps forward. So let's talk about self-publishing children's books and the best first steps. Now, obviously, there's a lot of people that have some type of a story with them, maybe some type of an idea in their mind, or they want to do children's books. And that's all well and good, because I'm not going to sit here and try to flush out exactly what you're going to want to do, but I'm going to at least point you in the right direction so that way you don't get entirely lost, because the business of self-publishing can be so overwhelming. So this is why the very first thing I'm going to tell you to do before you even put pen to paper or you start drawing out illustrations for your children's book, you got to do a little bit of research and recon. This is where we're going to hang out here for just a few minutes, just talking about research and recon, because just simply publishing the book and praying for best is great for hobbyists, people that really are not interested in making a living from this. And if you are a hobbyist, I will not shame you, but maybe consider some of the things I'm going to suggest to you. Those of you that are trying to make a living from self-publishing, then you're going to want to make sure that you do the research. And it starts out the very first thing you need to do is, what is the age range that I'm going to be writing for? Think about that. Now, you can't just go, well, it's for everybody under the age of 18. Well, it's for everybody under 13. No, we got to get laser sharp and focused on exactly where we want to be publishing our books and who the audience is. So you're going to find quite a few resources online. You can literally Google up age ranges for children's books. And you're going to see some that say 0 to 3, 3 to 5, 6 to 8, 9 to 12. Then there's going to be some other resources that say 0 to 2, 3 to 5, so on and so forth. It changes out the different age brackets. So long as you have a general idea of that direction, that's what you're going to want to do. And you're probably saying, okay, well, how do I know? All you got to do is just a simple Google search, or even get on Amazon. Open it on up and search up what you are most interested in or what you're planning on writing. And it could probably be something as simple as children's rhyming books, something like that. It's up to you entirely. And then as you scroll through, look for something that grabs your eye and you're willing to click on it. Click on that product. You're going to scroll on down. Instead of the product details, there's actually going to be some categories. Those are going to lead you over to the bestseller list for those given categories. So go ahead and select that and then study the top 20 books in that given niche. You're going to really pay attention to the age range. And you're typically going to see that right at the top near the description or close to the product details. They lately have been split testing some different layouts on Amazon, and I've noticed recently that they moved the age range just below the fold over at the book description, so not too bad. Once you figure it out, okay, we got to start talking about who is your audience. Yes, you're writing children's books. Maybe you've already picked it out. Is it 3 to 5? Is it 6 to 8? Knowing some of these ranges kind of changes out your ideal customer avatar. Because let's say, for instance, you're doing a book for 0 to 3 years old. Okay, not bad. But do you think the 3-year-old's going to be buying or ordering that book? No, the parents are. But you get a little further up towards, say, 9, 12 years old, something like that, then maybe there's a little bit more freedom and discretionary expense. Either way, always think about the parent first if you can, so that way it makes it easier on what you're going to be putting together for as far as a product, because it has to appeal to children, but it also has to appeal to parents alike. So how many pages? That's going to be the next thing. Focus on the top 20 books again. How many pages do they have? If you find it's all over the board, let's say it's 100 pages for this one, but only 24 pages for this one, you're going to need to take it with a grain of salt and think about how you fit within that niche and how your book could possibly fit into the bestsellers lists. So the very next thing is it just text, or is there going to be illustrations? Quite a bit of children's books have illustrations in them, but there are some that do not have the illustrations. Knowing that in advance is going to help things out in the long term. So if you get illustrations, will it be full color, or are you going to do black and white? I would recommend full color if you have it available in that, but bear in mind, when you do print and self-publish any type of books through, say, something like Amazon, KDP, or platforms like that, full color iterations cost a great deal more than black and white. There is a little bit of hope on the horizon, though, because I do have beta access in Amazon KDP to a feature called standard color, and it comes at a fraction of the price. However, it's a different type paper, and you don't want to oversaturate it with a ton of images and coloring. And so the other thing is, you don't need to think about, okay, well, we've got the illustrations. It's going to be full color. Now we got to say how many images are going to be in. Is it going to be cover to cover? Are we going to have nothing but illustrations? Because that's my favorite type of books that I do. But I know there's some people that will have an illustration, and then you've got the content. Go through the content for a few pages, another illustration. This varies on the age range. So let's take a look at 3 different product types that you're going to want to be considering when it comes to self-publishing children's books. And let's start it out with the easiest one in the pack, and that would be ebooks. Publishing to ebooks gets a little bit more problematic. Now, I'm not going to share with you how to format your children's book on a podcast, and especially if you're listening to this and commute to work or during your workout or something like that, it wouldn't make any sense. Feel free, you can always just look it up over on my channel. I have numerous tutorials about how to put it together. The thing you need to consider, though, is for ebooks, what's going to be the orientation? So most times, let's say, for instance, I'm reading my ebook on my Kindle app over on my iPhone. Then it's going to give me a potential to have a 16:9 ratio, meaning that it's going to be like watching TV. You've got it in two ways. You can have it featured in portrait or landscape. Now, what if you're like, Dale, I don't want it being 16:9. I want to have it completely square, if that's cool with you. That's totally cool with me. It's something actually I've done myself with some of my children's books. You're just going to be able to put that into there right in the center. It's super, super easy. All right. Next thing we got to focus on is print. What's the trim size? How big is the book going to be? Because this, knowing the size of your book before you even put pen to paper, is going to help you produce a manuscript so much easier, rather than, oh, I'm going to produce it all, and then you go over to, say, Amazon KDP and find out there's no books that are 13:2. I hope that you're not ordering a book that's 13:2. That would just be completely ridiculous. But you get the idea. Knowing what the trim size is going to make all the difference for you. The next thing to think about also is going to be bleed versus no bleed. Now, if you're just in, say, nonfiction, adult nonfiction, or even just fiction authoring, then chances are very likely that you've only needed to worry about no bleed this whole time. Because if you've never put any images, or your images are limited, easy for me to say, inside the margins, then chances are likely you didn't know about bleed. Now, bleed means this. It is when an image or graphics spill off the page, and it allows for better cuts at the printers, so that way they have something they can cut off. You can't have your text anywhere near that bleed, because most platforms will just reject it and send it back to you. But different graphics can do that. So for instance, my book, Grumpy Gus Loses His Shoes, that's full color, and that also is a bleed on that one right there. The reason why I wanted it bleed is I wanted to have a children's book that was page to page, top to bottom, inside to out, full color. It was just something that would grab the eye. That was a big deal to me. So think to yourself, do I need to have wall to wall or page to page or cover to cover full color illustrations, or even black and white illustrations? So that would be bleed if you want to have it spilling off the page. No bleed means there's margins, you stay within it, and there's going to be a little area just right outside of your normal text that it's going to be just blank. All right, next one up, audiobooks. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Now, there is quite a few authors that believe that children's books, for however short it might be, isn't worth pursuing, worth publishing. But I got news for you. I've already invested in a narrator for my Grumpy Gus books because I wanted to test it out. The funny thing is, with zero marketing and promotion, zero, that audiobook does the best over the ebook and print book versions because of its distribution. It gets out to different libraries too, so it's getting into more kids' hands, which of course one hand washes the other, and hopefully people buy the print book and the ebook. But nonetheless, having the audiobook is going to be something for you to consider. You might have to hire out for that, or if you know how to do it yourself, have at it. Some people go, okay, where do I publish my children's books? Now, this might not be a popular opinion. You notice they say opinion here because it is my opinion and I'm an expert of it. So with ACX, it's great. It's Audiobook Creation Exchange. You get distribution to Amazon, Audible, and Apple. Okay, those three are fantastic. And if you wanted to stay exclusive to that, that's great because they're pulling in 90% of the lion's share in audiobook publication profits. So if you stayed there, that's fine. I would recommend, this is my opinion here, that you consider Findaway Voices. Now, Findaway Voices, though they've been a former sponsor of the channel, I'm saying this without being compensated whatsoever and telling you that Findaway Voices is where you should go to. Why? Because of library distribution, for one, you get that, because you don't get that in ACX. No library distribution, bye, see ya. That's all they're going to give you is those 3 avenues, where with Findaway Voices, you get over 40 different avenues, including Amazon, Audible, and Apple. And they have an 80% royalty structure. All that to say this, you're going to go, but Dale, wait. Let's say that I've got a book that is illustration heavy and just a little bit of text. I can still turn that into an audiobook? Absolutely. In fact, most publishing platforms like Findaway Voices and ACX will get it to where they have a downloadable PDF version of your book if you wish to. So for instance, on mine, I just created a black and white version of the book. It was a little less resolution. Of course, a call to action to go and pick up the actual print book version for better quality. So that was kind of a nice way to promote that. But nonetheless, libraries were checking it out, and I was getting paid for those things through Findaway Voices. This is why I believe that with library distribution, that's where you need to be at, because there's going to be a lot of kids and, more importantly, parents that are going to be going to libraries to get your book, which is super, super exciting. All right, so we're coming around the bend here, I promise you. We've got 3 ways to get the job done. When it comes to putting together your content, you got 3 ways. Number 1, hire out. If you're brand new to the business of self-publishing, hiring out is probably going to be one of the wiser decisions. You'll thank me later for it. You can go to platforms like Fiverr or Upwork. I've yet to use any illustrators on Fiverr, but I have a couple of friends who have and have had great results with it. My favorite thing is just referrals. If you can ask around to other authors or people inside the indie author community who they would recommend, then go with that and try them out. Next thing that you can do is, number 2, DIY, do it yourself. That means if you got to have illustrations, you're going to draw your own content. Or in instances like what I did was I bought a standard licensing for some images. And in that license, so long as I modified the original content that was inside the image and made it my own, it was completely above board. Now, for premium licensing, it's a bit more expensive, more pricey, but you can use the exact image without any alterations. Now, this varies per avenue. So places like if you go to Pixabay to get your illustrations, it's completely free and no attribution is required right now. If you go to Deposit Photos, which is one of my favorite places, then they have these free images that they'll offer, and it's pretty limited. Then you got the standard one, which comes at, if you find a good deal, anywhere from 35 cents to $1 for the image. And then if you go for premium licensing on Deposit Photos, it runs closer to like $5 to $10 per image, which gets a bit more pricey, as you can see. I will talk more about images and licensing in next week's podcast, so make sure that you stay tuned and you're subscribed to, of course, this podcast channel. Number 3 is the hybrid. That's going to be when you hire out and you do it yourself. A little bit of both of those things. I don't want to overwhelm you at this point. I don't want to sit here and tell you all these 50,000 different things to do, because if you can hire out and DIY, fantastic. I recommend it, especially if you're a great artist. But let's say that you're not good at formatting interiors. Hire someone on Fiverr. Let's say that you're not great at illustrations, but you're good at writing and you're great at formatting. Find a freelancer that'll do it for you. Hey, big special thanks to you, the listeners and the viewers here. I just want to say I appreciate it. We hit over 1,000 subscribers on the Self-Publishing with Dale podcast channel on YouTube. Are you saying, what? I don't know what you're talking about? Come on, join the party. You can see my pretty face. Maybe it's not pretty, but either way, you get to see my glowing and radiant and positive image if you go over and visit dalelinks.com/YouTube podcast and become part of the first 2,000 subscribers. Since we're past 1,000, we're shooting for 2,000 next. Final thoughts here when it comes to the best first steps. Research, research, research. Before you invest any amount of money or time into self-publishing children's books, see what is working right now on the marketplace. One thing I would also recommend is you might look at a children's book as being smaller or shorter than, say, most traditional adult nonfiction or fiction books. But there is a lot of actual behind the scenes things that you still have to do that's going to require a lot of work. So don't think to yourself, well, I listened to Dale's podcast, so I'll be able to publish in the next month. It might take you the next month to do all of the research and the reconnaissance. Give yourself a little bit of time so that way you can really have a successful launch. Hey folks, we're going to go ahead, get around the bend again. Make sure that you're joining me over the next few weeks. We're going to be talking more about self-publishing children's books. Next week, we're going to talk about image rights and licensing. And after that, we're going to be talking about marketing and promoting for children's books. Subscribe or follow me on your preferred podcasting platform and leave a review. In fact, a review was left by Chargers7750 over on the Apple Podcasts with all caps, best show ever, 5 stars. Listen, self-publishers looking to get actual legit step-by-step advice to make money and not just feel-good conversations that get you nowhere. This is your podcast. This dude gives you step-by-step instructions, to-do lists, resources, what not to do, and so much more. I want to personally say thank you for taking the time to invest in our podcast, in your podcast, to give back, helping others through real step-by-step instructions that I believe if I follow will prove successful. I can now help my husband market his books and himself with the help of your advice. This is incredibly helpful and unlike any other podcast for self-publishing authors. Thank you in all caps. Well, Chargers7750, thank you. I appreciate that. If you guys could do the same thing, leave a comment over on the YouTube podcast channel, and I'll hit you back for sure. In the meantime, this has been Self-Publishing with Dale, and I will chat with you folks next week.